The first thing you feel isn't glory, it's nausea. A violent, gut-twisting lurch as the universe folds you up like a cheap suit and spits you out onto cold, unforgiving stone. You don't walk through a shimmering portal. You arrive like a misdelivered package, landing hard on your hands and knees. The world spins, and the only welcome you receive is the metallic taste of bile at the back of your throat. Congratulations, you've made it. Try not to vomit on the ancient masonry. They're very particular about that here. You push yourself up, your head throbbing in a rhythm that feels suspiciously like a death metal drum solo. The air is the next thing that hits you. It's thick, heavy with the cloying sweetness of exotic incense trying and failing to mask something else, something coppery and rotten, the smell of an old slaughterhouse. A low guttural chant echoes from unseen corridors, a sound that doesn't soothe the soul but vibrates deep in your bones, humming a tune of profound dread. This isn't a place of honor, it's a place of endings. Before you can even get your bearings, a shadow falls over you. You look up, and your brain short-circuits. Standing over you isn't a serene monk or a beautiful princess holding a scroll. It's a 7-foot-tall creature with skin like dried leather, a lipless mouth filled with rows of needle-sharp teeth, and 2 long, bony blades growing directly out of its forearms. It clicks its teeth, a wet, sharp sound, and a string of viscous saliva drips onto the stone near your hand. This is your welcome committee. There is no HR department. There is no orientation packet. It simply nudges you forward with its foot, a clear, universal gesture for get moving, meat. You're herded into a vast courtyard with the others. And that's the next soul-crushing revelation. You look around, searching for the heroes, the chosen ones, the band of noble warriors you've seen in the stories. You don't find them. You find people just like you. A brawny street brawler from an unnamed city, now pale and trembling. A disciplined martial artist, her knuckles white as she grips her own GI. A dozen other faces, all painted with the same shades of confusion and stark, animal terror. You are not a fellowship. You are a cattle call. A voice, impossibly loud and dripping with ancient arrogance, booms from the heavens, or maybe just from a very good PA system carved into the skull of a dragon. Warriors, you have been chosen for the most glorious of traditions, Mortal Kombat. The word chosen hangs in the air, a sick joke that no one is laughing at. The voice explains the rules, which is to say, it explains the utter lack of them. Victory. Survival. That's it. This isn't a tournament to test your spirit. It's a blood sacrifice to appease a bored, psychopathic emperor, and you're the entertainment. You stare at the impossible architecture, the snarling statues, the other terrified contestants. Then, your eyes drift to a balcony overlooking the courtyard. There they are. The real fighters. The headliners. You see a hulking beast with 4 massive arms cracking its knuckles. You see a ninja clad in yellow, his eyes glowing with an eerie spectral light. You see another figure whose hands are literally smoking with frost. And is that the actual god of thunder, casually leaning against a pillar? You look down at your own 2, decidedly non-magical, non-divine hands. A cold sweat trickles down your spine as you finally, truly, do the math in your head. It's not a difficult equation. But if you think the sheer cosmic unfairness of the roster is the worst part, you haven't even begun to understand the statistics of your own doom. Let's pull up your character sheet, shall we? Let's take a cold, hard look at the warrior who just got dropped into this meat grinder. Under special abilities, you've got a pretty decent spin kick you learned at a strip mall dojo. You can run a respectable 6-minute mile. And you once won a bar fight against a guy named Kevin. Congratulations. Your primary offensive attacks are punching and kicking, limited by quaint little things like physics and your own skeletal structure. Your defensive capabilities involve ducking and moving out of the way. It's all very terrestrial, adorable even. Now, Let's glance over at the competition's resumes. Let's start with the one in blue. His name is Sub-Zero. His special ability? He violates the second law of thermodynamics as a party trick. He doesn't just make things cold, he rips the heat out of the very air, forging solid weapons from frozen vapor. Your plan to deal with a man who can turn your blood into a popsicle from 20 feet away is what exactly? To punch him really fast? While your fist is busy connecting with a solid wall of ice he just conjured, his will be connecting with your face, leaving a patch of frostbite where your nose used to be. But maybe you get a more traditional opponent. Goro, the four-armed half-dragon prince. This isn't a fight, it's a math problem you can't solve. You have 2 arms, he has 4. While you're busy trying to block a single, bone-shattering punch, he has 3 other sledgehammers of flesh and bone free to tenderize your kidneys, crush your skull, and play your ribs like a xylophone. His special move is being a biological impossibility designed for the sole purpose of turning things like you into a red paste. Your spin kick is not going to register as anything more than a mild annoyance, like a fly bumping into a wrecking ball. And then there are the ones who don't even play by the rules of reality. You see that ninja in yellow? The one with the glowing white eyes? That's Scorpion. He's not just a highly trained martial artist. He's a resurrected specter of vengeance from a literal hell dimension. He teleports. He breathes fire. He is fueled by unending rage and damnation. You're not fighting a man. You're fighting a supernatural crisis. When he throws that spear and yells, "Get over here!" it's not just a cool catchphrase. It's a hell-forged blade piercing your sternum, a demonic chain yanking you across the courtyard towards a man who is actively on fire and very, very angry with you. What part of your training prepared you for that? The organizers, in their infinite wisdom, finally post the tournament brackets. Your eyes scan the list of horrors, praying for the least threatening option. Maybe that actor guy, Johnny Cage? You could probably take him, but no. Your finger traces the line. There's your name, and next to it, Raiden. Congratulations. Your first opponent is the literal god of thunder, the immortal protector of Earth Realm, a being who can summon lightning from the sky and teleport in a crackle of pure energy. Your game plan? Try to die in a way that's not too embarrassing. Good luck. Maybe if you're polite, he'll just vaporize you instantly instead of making it a whole thing. You look at your fists, then at the sky, which is already starting to darken with ominous clouds. You've read the stats. You understand the power gap on an intellectual level. You know with absolute certainty that you are going to lose. But all the theory crafting and grim acceptance in the world can't prepare you for the one thing the stat sheets leave out: the simple, brutal, and very personal physics of what happens when one of those special moves actually connects with your body. The announcer's voice roars, "Fight!" and the sound itself feels like a physical blow. You're not ready. You'll never be ready. You're standing across from a cryomancer, and your survival instincts are screaming a language your conscious mind can't quite decipher. The air around you doesn't just get chilly. It becomes thin, sharp, and painful to breathe. A visible frost spreads across the stone floor, racing towards your feet with an unnatural speed. It's not the slow, creeping cold of winter. It's an aggressive, predatory cold that feels like it wants to crawl inside your lungs and solidify them. Your genius plan is to rush him. Close the distance. Don't give him space to do his magic. You take 2 steps, and that's when it happens. He doesn't throw a projectile. He simply gestures, and the ground at your feet erupts, not with ice, but with a patch of slick, supernatural frost that's slipperier than greased glass. Your forward momentum betrays you. You don't just fall, you slide, pinwheeling your arms like a cartoon character before crashing to the ground with a sickening wet crack. That's your ankle. It's broken. The pain is a white-hot supernova, a blinding flash that erases all thought. Your leg is bent at an angle it was never designed to bend. The fight is 10 seconds old. He walks towards you, not with the urgency of a warrior, but with the calm, unhurried pace of a butcher approaching a stunned animal. You try to scramble backwards, using your hands and your one good leg, but the broken limb drags behind you, a dead weight of agony. Each movement sends a fresh jolt of pure, undiluted misery up your spine. He raises a hand, and you see him conjure it out of thin air, an ice ball. It's not a smooth, harmless sphere. It's a jagged, crystalline mass of frozen energy that hums with a low, dangerous thrum. You throw up an arm to defend yourself, a pathetic, reflexive gesture. The ice ball doesn't shatter on impact. It detonates. The force of it is a physical concussion, a sledgehammer blow that sends you tumbling backwards. Your arm goes numb, then erupts in a chorus of pain. It feels both frozen and on fire, a sensation your nerves were never meant to process. Tiny needle-like shards of magical ice are now embedded in your skin, your muscles, maybe even your bone. Forget a clean break. This is a contaminated, catastrophic injury. You lie there, gasping, your vision swimming. The sweet, rotten smell of the arena is now mixed with the crisp, sterile scent of ozone and something else. The smell of your own blood, steaming faintly on the frozen ground. You hear a sound, a low, wet, grinding noise. You force your eyes to focus and see that he's forming a new weapon in his hands. It's long, sharp, and dripping with a cold mist, an ice sword. He is going to walk over and methodically, calmly, take you apart. The physical trauma is absolute, but it's the sensory shock that truly breaks you, the impossible cold that feels hot. The sight of a man bending the laws of nature with a flick of his wrist. The sound of your own bones snapping like dry twigs. You finally understand. This isn't a fight. It's a physics demonstration, and you are the unfortunate test subject. But as you brace for the final, merciful blow, a new, even more terrifying thought worms its way into your pain-addled brain. What if you survive this? What happens after? Somehow the final blow never came. Maybe the bell rang. Maybe your opponent got bored. Maybe the God Emperor was distracted by a particularly shiny beetle. It doesn't matter. The result is the same. You're still alive. And you have never wished for death more fervently. You're dragged off the fighting floor like a sack of garbage and dumped unceremoniously into a dark, reeking alcove alongside the other survivors. Welcome to the locker room. There are no trainers, no medics, no magical healing potions. There is only misery shared in silence. Your ankle isn't just broken, it's a grotesque, swollen mess of purple and black, already twice its normal size. The jagged end of a bone is visibly tenting the skin. Your arm, where the ice ball hit, is a patchwork of deep blue bruises and dozens of tiny, weeping puncture wounds. It throbs with a deep, relentless ache that syncs up with your own frantic heartbeat. You try to move, to sit up, and a fresh wave of nausea and agony washes over you, so intense it makes you see stars. There is no morphine. There is no ibuprofen. There isn't even a stick to bite down on. Your only pain management option is to pass out, and your body cruelly refuses to grant you that mercy. You're not alone in your suffering. A few feet away, a woman is trying to spit her own teeth back into her mouth. Across from you, a man is holding his own intestines in with a dirty rag, his face a mask of pale, sweaty shock. The air is thick with the sounds of whimpering, ragged breathing and the occasional, low, guttural sob of a fighter who has finally broken. The smell is unbearable, a cocktail of sweat, blood, urine, and the faint, sweet, sickly scent of decay that tells you not everyone who gets dragged in here gets dragged back out. This is where the real horror of Mortal Kombat sets in. It's not the supernatural violence, it's the mundane, grinding aftermath. Sure, your opponent can shatter your bones with a single blow, but the real enemy is the Staphylococcus bacteria teeming on the filthy floor, eyeing the open wound on your leg. The real threat is the tetanus hiding in the rusty grate you were slammed against. You didn't just lose a fight, you received a dozen contaminated complex injuries in an environment with zero sanitation. Congratulations! You're in a race to see what ends you first, your next opponent, or the gangrene that's already planning a hostile takeover of your foot. Hours pass, or maybe it's minutes. Time has lost all meaning, replaced by a constant, throbbing metronome of pain. No one comes to help. No one offers you water. Your next match is in the morning. That's not a threat. It's a statement of fact. You are expected to be on that fighting floor, ready to perform. Your broken ankle? Your mangled arm? The brewing fever you can feel starting to cloud your thoughts? Not their problem. This is the ultimate hostile work environment. There are no sick days, no workers' compensation. Your only job duty is to show up and bleed for the crowd, regardless of your current state of disrepair. You lie in the filth, listening to the groans of the damned around you, feeling the infection begin its slow, methodical march through your veins. You realize the tournament isn't designed for you to win. It's designed to break you down, piece by agonizing piece. They don't even need to kill you in the arena. They just need to wound you once. The environment will handle the rest. But as you contemplate the slow, septic death awaiting you in this hovel, you hear a distant roar from the crowd. The next match has started. And you realize with a jolt of primal fear, it's not just the fighters you have to worry about. It's the very ground you're fighting on. You think your dark, septic tank of a recovery room is bad? Too bad. It's time for your next match. Two hulking guards, reeking of stale sweat and something vaguely reptilian, haul you to your feet. The agony in your ankle is a lightning strike, but their grip is iron. They don't carry you. They drag you. Your broken foot scrapes along the gritty stone floor, leaving a smear of blood and filth in its wake. You're shoved out into the light, and your senses are immediately assaulted by your new workplace. Welcome to the pit. The most obvious feature, of course, is the drop. A chasm of indeterminate depth, lined with rusty, blood-caked metal spikes pointing skyward. They're not neatly arranged. They jut out at chaotic angles, some bent from previous impacts. The message is clear. The floor is lava, except the floor is a long, painful, tetanus-filled death. The narrow stone bridge you're meant to fight on is maybe 10 feet wide. One wrong step, one well-placed shove, one slip on a suspicious-looking puddle, and your tournament career ends with you becoming a human shish kebab. That's the obvious danger, the one they put in the brochure. But it's the little things that truly work their way under your skin. The bridge itself isn't clean stone. It's slick with generations of dried and fresh fluids. Blood, mostly, but other things you don't want to identify. The air doesn't just smell of death. It's a humid, greasy miasma that coats the back of your throat. It carries the scent of the abyss below, a potent blend of decay, rust, and the unmistakable odor of stagnant, polluted water. A cloud of fat, black flies buzzes lazily over the spikes, occasionally making a field trip up to investigate the new piece of meat on the bridge. That's you. And it's not just the pit. Every arena in this godforsaken tournament is an OSHA violation made manifest. Your next fight might be in the dead pool. Sounds refreshing, right? Wrong. It's a chamber where the floor is a shallow basin of viscous green acid. Not the fun, sci-fi kind that eats through metal, the slow, flesh-melting kind that dissolves you over agonizing minutes while a crowd of degenerates cheers. The fumes alone make your eyes water and your lungs burn. Chains with rusty hooks dangle from the ceiling, perfect for dipping your opponent like a teabag into a cup of searing agony. The primary danger isn't your opponent's fists, it's being splashed. Or maybe you'll get lucky and be sent to the living forest. A nice walk in the woods? Dream on. The trees have faces. Grimacing, moaning faces with empty eye sockets. They watch you. Their branches, gnarled like the hands of arthritic giants, seem to reach for you as you pass. The ground is a soft, spongy carpet of moss, and what you hope is mud. Every so often, a low groan echoes through the woods, a sound that seems to come from the very earth beneath your feet. And then you see it, One of the trees opens its gaping wooden maw and casually swallows a bird whole. These aren't just decorations. They're hungry. You stand there on the bridge of the pit, your broken ankle screaming, your body a canvas of pain, facing an opponent who is fresh, healthy, and probably has some kind of horrifying superpower. You are fighting on two fronts, one against the monster in front of you and one against the actively malicious environment around you. You have to worry about a fireball to the face and slipping on a patch of week old gore. You're distracted by the stench of rot, the buzzing of corpse flies, and the soul-crushing certainty that even if you win, your prize is another fight in another death trap. It's in this moment of sensory and existential overload that your opponent strikes. You're not ready. You're too busy trying not to breathe too deeply. A single, powerful blow sends you stumbling backwards. Your good foot lands on something slick. For a horrifying, weightless moment, you are airborne. And then, you fall. But you don't hit the spikes. Your opponent caught you. He holds you effortlessly, a cruel smirk on his face as the crowd roars. You're not dead yet. He's not done with you. Now comes the part this is all for, the grand finale. The part where your death stops being a possibility and becomes a work of performance art. That booming, omnipotent voice echoes across the arena once more. Finish him. It's not a suggestion. It's a command. It's a cue for the curtain to rise on the final, most humiliating moment of your short, pathetic life. Your opponent, who holds you dangling over the abyss with one hand, isn't looking at you. He's looking at the balcony, at the Emperor. He's playing to the crowd, basking in their bloodlust. You are no longer a combatant. You are a prop. This is the moment that shatters the last, pathetic illusion of warrior's honor. This isn't a quick, merciful end. It's not about victory. It's about spectacle. It's about turning your body into a fountain of gore for the amusement of a jaded audience. You hang there, helpless, your broken body screaming in protest, and you are forced to watch your own execution being choreographed. The smirk on your opponent's face is the cruelest thing you've ever seen. It's not the grin of a heated rival. It's the self-satisfied look of an artist about to unveil his masterpiece. He doesn't just drop you onto the spikes. That would be too simple. Too boring. Instead, with a theatrical flourish, he hauls you back onto the bridge and slams you to the stone. The impact sends a shockwave of pure agony through every shattered bone and bruised muscle. He wants you conscious for this. He wants you to appreciate the artistry. Let's say your opponent is the one with the metal arms. He doesn't just punch you, he revs them up. A low, mechanical whir fills the air as his cybernetics glow red-hot. He's heating them. He wants to cauterize the wounds as he makes them. It's a practical consideration, really. Less cleanup. He grabs your head in his massive, heated metallic grip. You can smell your own hair and skin singeing, the stench of a grotesque barbecue. You see his other hand raised, not in a fist, but with his fingers spread, like a surgeon preparing for a very delicate, very loud procedure. The plan isn't to kill you. The plan is to pop your head like a grape. Or perhaps you're facing the sorcerer, the one with the ancient, withered face. He laughs, a dry, rattling sound like leaves skittering across a tombstone. He chants a few words in a language that makes your teeth ache. A sickly green energy envelops his hands. He's not going to touch you. He reaches towards you, and you feel a sensation that is utterly indescribable. It's not pain. It's a violation. It's the feeling of your very essence, your life force, your soul, being pulled from your body like a stubborn thread from a tapestry. Your vision blurs, the world turns gray, and your last sensation is of being hollowed out, leaving behind nothing but an empty, rapidly cooling shell. The final moments are a blur of indignity. The roar of the crowd, the approving nod from the Emperor, the triumphant pose of your killer standing over your cooling corpse. Your death wasn't a tragedy. It was a punchline, a special effect, a fatality. The most terrifying part isn't the violence itself, but the cold, calculated showmanship of it all. It's the absolute dehumanization. You weren't defeated, you were used. You were a canvas upon which a bloody mural was painted, and then you were discarded. You might think, as the last spark of consciousness fades from your ruined body, that this is it, the end. The pain is over. The suffering is done. You'd be wrong. Oh, you would be so wrong. You see, in the Mortal Kombat universe, the one thing more horrifying than dying is what comes next. Game over? Don't be so naive. The real tournament is just beginning. The darkness that takes you isn't peaceful. It's not a gentle fading to black. It's a cold, suffocating void, and you are still aware. You have no body, no senses, no connection to the physical world, but you are still there. A disembodied consciousness adrift in an ocean of nothing. For a moment, you feel a flicker of something that might be relief. The pain is gone. The fear is gone. But that peace is shattered by a new, more profound horror. You are being pulled. It's a spiritual undertow, an inexorable force dragging your naked soul towards somewhere. You have no choice in the matter. You are a speck of dust caught in a cosmic vacuum cleaner. The destination reveals itself not through sight, but through a feeling. An oppressive, soul-crushing despair that permeates the very fabric of this new reality. The air, if you could call it that, is thick with sorrow and rage. This is the nether realm. This is hell. And it has a new resident. Your ethereal form coalesces into something vaguely recognizable. You look down at your hands and see they are made of shimmering green energy, tethered to a body that feels like a prison of sorrow. You are a soul, and souls are a currency here, a resource to be exploited. You see legions of others just like you, their spectral faces locked in masks of eternal anguish, their movements sluggish and without purpose. They are the leftovers of 1,000 tournaments, the discarded spiritual debris of countless fatalities. A figure of immense power and malice approaches. It could be Quan Chi. It could be Chinook. The name doesn't matter. What matters is the absolute ownership he exudes. He looks at you not as a person, but as a raw material. With a flick of his wrist and a whispered incantation, he reforges you. The process is agony beyond anything you felt in the physical world. Your essence is twisted, corrupted, repurposed. Your memories of who you were are burned away, leaving only the trauma. Your free will is scooped out and replaced with a singular burning directive. Serve. Congratulations. You are now a revenant. A mindless, undead warrior, draped in the skin of your former self. Your eyes glowing with a sickly green light. You don't feel pain anymore, but you also don't feel joy or hope or anything but a hollow echo of the warrior you failed to be, now enslaved to a dark lord's will. You will be sent back to the very realms you once came from, not as a hero, but as a plague. You will fight against the very people you might have once called allies, your hand forced by a magic you cannot resist. Your own body, your own skills, are now a weapon aimed at everything you once were. Or maybe you're not useful enough to be a revenant. Maybe your soul is just fuel. You feel yourself being drawn into a vortex of screaming spirits, a swirling monument of stolen life force. You become a tiny drop of energy in Shao Kahn's vast reservoir of power. Your existence, your consciousness, your entire history is consumed to add a fraction of a percentage point to his power level. You don't even get the dignity of being a zombie slave. You are simply an energy drink for a tyrant. Your life, your struggle, your horrific death, all of it culminates in being unceremoniously digested by an evil emperor. You came to Mortal Kombat hoping to be a hero. You were brutalized, mutilated, and humiliated. And just when you thought you had paid the ultimate price, you discovered your suffering had only entered its second phase. There is no glorious afterlife. There is no peaceful rest. There is only servitude or consumption. Your body was a toy, and now your very soul is a commodity. You have been utterly and completely erased. And the tournament? It continues. New contestants arrive, new bodies are broken, new souls are harvested, and no one will ever remember your name. The last sound you remember from your old world is silence, not the peace of a quiet forest or the hush of snowfall, but a heavy, ringing deafness that follows the roar of a battle lost. It's the silence that descends when the screams of your kinsmen have faded, and the only sound left is the crackle of your burning home. You taste ash on your tongue. You smell the coppery scent of cooling blood on the soil that once fed you. And through the smoke, you see it. The eagle. A glint of polished bronze atop a standard, indifferent and absolute. It is the last thing you see as a free man. Your life, the one you knew, has just ended. This is merely the beginning of the story of your body. Your past is a ghost that grows thinner with every step you take in chains. You try to hold on to it. The face of your wife, the weight of your child in your arms, the feel of the axe handle your father taught you to grip. These were once the cornerstones of your world. Now they are whispers in a language no one here understands. They are memories that bring not comfort, but a sharp, cutting pain, a reminder of a man who no longer exists. The legionaries do not care for your name. To them, you are you, a guttural grunt, a number shouted in a line. They sheared your hair, stripped you of your clothes, and with them, stripped you of the man you were. You are chattel now, raw material. A body strong and defiant, purchased not with coin, but with the spilt blood of your people. The march is a blur of dust, sun, and the rhythmic clanking of iron. Your world shrinks to the sweat-slicked back of the man in front of you, and the cold bite of the manacles on your wrists. The chain that links you to the others is a cruel teacher. It teaches you a new kind of community, not of kinship, but of shared misery. You learn to walk in its rhythm, to sleep when it allows, to drink when water is offered. You see men, strong men who fought like lions just days ago, fall to sickness, to despair, to the casual brutality of the guards. Each one that falls is a lesson in the Empire's vast, impersonal power. It does not need to hate you to destroy you. It simply needs to forget you are a man. And as you are herded across the land, a piece of living plunder, you begin to forget it yourself. The hunger, the thirst, the exhaustion, they burn away everything but the primal animal need to see the next sunrise. Finally, you arrive in a place of stone and noise, a city so vast it feels like a wound in the earth. Here, the final humiliation awaits. You are pushed onto a wooden block in a market that stinks of sweat, fear, and exotic animals. Your body, once a source of pride, is now an object for sale. Men with cold, calculating eyes walk around you. They open your mouth to inspect your teeth. They run their hands over the old scars on your arms, not as a record of your history, but as a measure of your durability. They feel the muscles in your back and legs, gauging your power. You are a horse, a bull, a piece of meat being appraised for its worth. Then a man with a face like a closed fist stops before you. He does not look at your face, but at your frame. He sees not a man, but an investment. A murmur of a price, the clink of coin. The deal is done. You have been sold. Your new owner, the lanista, leads you away from the market. Your destination is a place you have only heard of in fearful whispers. A place where men are reforged for a single, bloody purpose. The life you had is gone. The man you were is a shadow. Now you are nothing but potential, a block of living stone to be carved into something new, something terrifying. But to build a killer, you must first be broken completely. And the school of pain is now in session. The gate of the ludus closes behind you with the sound of a tomb being sealed. The world outside vanishes. This is your new universe, a self-contained kingdom of sand, sweat, and iron. The air is thick with the smells of oiled leather, human exertion, and a faint, metallic tang you will come to know as old blood. Your owner, the lanista, leads you into the central yard. Here, other men, with bodies carved from hardship, move with a lethal grace, their wooden swords clashing in a rhythmic, brutal percussion. They don't look at you. You are nothing yet. A whisper of a man. The lanista's voice cuts through the noise, and it is not a voice of negotiation. It is the voice of law. He tells you the rules. Rule 1. You do not speak unless spoken to. Rule 2. You eat what you are given. Rule 3. You will train until you collapse. Rule 4. Your body is his property. It is an instrument he has purchased, and he will tune it with pain and discipline until it plays the song of the arena. The first weeks are a living hell, a fire meant to burn away the last remnants of the man you were. Your day begins before sunrise, with a horn blast that feels like a physical blow. The food is a tasteless barley gruel, enough to build muscle, not enough to bring comfort. Then comes the training. It begins not with a sword, but with the palus, a wooden stake driven into the earth. For hours, you strike it with a heavy wooden sword, the rudis, and a wicker shield. Your arms scream, your back seizes, your lungs burn. The trainer, a scarred veteran whose own fighting days are over, circles you like a wolf. He cares nothing for your exhaustion. He corrects your stance with a sharp rap of his rod, his voice a constant litany of your failures. You are too slow, your guard is too low, your footwork is clumsy. This is the first stage of the forge, the breaking. Your pride is hammered into dust. Your defiance is beaten into obedience. Your body, which fought for freedom, must now learn to move for the pleasure of a crowd. Slowly, imperceptibly, something begins to change. The agony in your muscles sharpens into a familiar ache. The clumsy strikes begin to find their rhythm. You start to see the geometry of the fight, the angles of attack, the economy of movement. You graduate from the stake to sparring with other novices. Here, the pain becomes a teacher. A missed block means a brutal, splintering crack against your ribs. A moment of hesitation earns you a welt across your face. You learn the language of the body, yours and your opponent's. You learn to read the shift in a man's weight, the flicker of his eyes. You are no longer just a man swinging a sword. You are becoming a part of a deadly machine. The lanista watches from the shade, his expression unreadable. He is the smith, and you are the metal. He is heating you, beating you, folding you, quenching you in the cold shock of exhaustion, tempering you into something hard and sharp. Within the walls of the ludus, a new society takes shape, as brutal as the training itself. There is a hierarchy written in scars and survival. At the bottom are the novices like you, the tyrones, sleeping on the worst bunks, eating last. Above you are the veterans, the veterani, men who have tasted the sand of the arena and survived. They carry themselves with a quiet, dangerous confidence. You watch them, study them. Their scarred bodies are a living map of the world you are about to enter. And at the very top are the champions, the primipali, the stars of the school. They get better food, private cells, the attention of women. They are living gods within these walls, and their favor or disdain can make your life a little easier or infinitely harder. You learn to navigate this world with your eyes down, to show respect, to never show weakness, because in the ludus, every day is a fight, even when you are not holding a sword. But in this pit of calculated cruelty, a strange seed of connection takes root. It is not friendship. Friendship is a luxury for a world you no longer inhabit. This is something else, something deeper and more desperate. It is the bond of the condemned. It is found in a shared glance of understanding after a brutal session. It is in the silent offering of a strip of cloth to bind a sparring wound. It is in the low murmur of voices in the dark of the cells, sharing stories not of past lives, but of past fights. These are the men you may one day have to face on the sand. Your life or his decided in a single, final moment. Yet here, in the crucible of the ludus, they are the only family you have. You are all iron being shaped by the same hammer. The lanista has forged his weapon. Now all that remains is to see if it will hold its edge on the anvil of the arena. The night before is a new kind of silence. It is not the silence of a lost home, but the heavy, humming quiet of anticipation. You lie on your straw pallet, but sleep is a distant country. Your body is a finely tuned instrument, thrumming with a nervous energy that is both fear and readiness. The lanista gave you a better meal tonight, meat, a splash of wine, not out of kindness, but as fuel for the fire. He has invested too much in you to have you fail from an empty stomach. You run a thumb over the edge of the gladius you were issued. It is not wood this time. It is real. Cold, heavy, and brutally sharp. Its only purpose is to end a life. You have spent months, maybe years, preparing for this day. But preparation is a shield of theory, and tomorrow you will face the spear of reality. Every lesson, every scar, every moment of agony in the ludus has led to this threshold. The morning of the games is a sensory assault. You are marched from the relative quiet of your cell into a chaotic, subterranean world beneath the arena. The air is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, terrified animals, and the sharp, acrid scent of nervous sweat. The darkness is alive with sounds, the desperate prayers of other first-timers, the low growl of a caged beast, the distant muffled roar of a crowd that sounds like the sea. You are stripped and oiled, your muscles gleaming under the flickering torchlight. They hand you your armor, a bronze helmet, a manica for your arm, a greave for your leg. It is not meant to make you invincible. It is meant to prolong the show, to ensure the paying spectators get their money's worth from your struggle. As the helmet slides over your head, your world narrows to a sliver of vision. Your own breath sounds like a storm in your ears. You are no longer a man. You are a symbol, a type, a thraex, a murmillo, a name that describes not who you are, but how you are expected to die. The gate before you grinds open, and the world explodes. The sudden flood of daylight is blinding, a physical blow. But the light is nothing compared to the sound. It is a solid wall of noise, the collective roar of 50,000 people, a deafening, inhuman beast. It crashes over you, vibrates through the soles of your sandals, and settles deep in your bones. For a moment, you are paralyzed. You see the vast ellipse of the arena, the endless tiers of faces, all turned towards you. They are not individuals. They are a single entity, hungry and expectant. They have come for bread and circuses, and you are the circus. You force your legs to move, walking the processional lap, your heart hammering against your ribs. You raise your arm in the practiced salute, your voice joining the chorus of the condemned, Ave Caesar, morituri te salutant. Hail, Emperor, we who are about to die salute you. It is the most honest thing you have ever said. Then, the opponent stands before you. All the faces in the crowd, all the noise, all the world melts away. There is only him, another product of another ludus, another body forged in pain. His eyes, seen through the slits of his own helmet, hold the same mixture of terror and resolve as your own. There's no time for thought, no time for memory. The training takes over. Your body moves without your mind's command. The clash of bronze on shield is a deafening thunderclap. The scrape of sand under your feet is the only ground you have. The world shrinks to this deadly dance. A lunge, a parry, a feint. The weight of your shield, the strain in your arm, the burn in your lungs. You see an opening, a slight drop of his shield. The hours of striking the palus pay off. Your arm moves, a blur of motion. There is a strange, wet, tearing sound. A cry, quickly cut short. Your opponent stumbles back, his eyes wide with a surprise that turns to nothing. He falls to his knees and then collapses onto the sand, a crumpled heap of armor and flesh. A dark, crimson stain begins to spread in the sun-bleached earth around him. For a moment, there is a shocked silence. Then the roar returns, louder this time, a wave of primal approval. They are cheering for you, for your survival, for his demise. You stand there, panting, your sword dripping, the blood on the sand steaming in the heat. You have done it. You have killed a man for their entertainment. You have survived your baptism. But as you look down at the still form at your feet, you realize that a part of you has also died on that sand, leaving behind a harder, colder version of yourself. The Lannista's investment has paid its first dividend. The roar of the crowd follows you back into the darkness of the tunnels, but here, it sounds different, muffled, distant, like an echo from another world. The adrenaline that sang in your veins drains away, leaving behind a profound, bone-deep exhaustion and a sickening tremor in your hands. A medic, more of a butcher than a healer, roughly stitches a gash on your arm, the wine he pours on it a searing fire. You are given water, and it is the most precious thing you have ever tasted. You are led back to the ludus, and this time the gate closing does not feel like a tomb. It feels like a sanctuary, a strange, temporary reprieve from the blinding light and the sound of 50,000 people screaming for your death. You have earned your life, for now. Your status within the school has changed overnight. You are no longer a nameless tyro. You have faced the sand and returned. The other novices look at you with a new respect, tinged with fear. The veterans nod in acknowledgement. You are now part of the fraternity. You have felt the sun on the arena floor, heard the roar, and spilled blood. This is the only credential that matters here. Your food ration improves. You are moved to a better cell, one with a fraction more space, a little less damp. These are not comforts. They are investments. The Lanista protects his assets. Your body, the instrument of your survival, is now tended to with a meticulous, impersonal care. Masseurs work the knots from your muscles, their hands skilled but detached. Your wounds are cleaned and dressed. You are a prized bull, a champion stallion being groomed for the next race. The world outside the walls of the ludus begins to know your name, a name given to you by your owner, a short, brutal name that sounds good when shouted by a crowd. You hear it sometimes, chanted by patrons in a nearby tavern. You see your likeness, a crude, stylized caricature of you in your helmet, scratched onto the walls of buildings or painted on pottery. Gamblers place bets on you. Wealthy women send you gifts, a small pouch of coins, a bottle of better wine, a silk cloth. They are drawn to the fantasy of you, the savage, the hero, the condemned man. You are a celebrity. But this fame is a phantom. It does not belong to you, the man. It belongs to the gladiator, the character you play on the sand. You can feel its heat, but you cannot use its warmth to free yourself. It is the gilding on a cage, beautiful and worthless. Between the bouts, life settles into a strange, tense rhythm. The days are a cycle of training, eating, and rest. But the training is different now. It is more refined, focused on honing your specific skills, on studying your potential opponents. The nights are long and filled with a quiet dread. You lie in the dark, and the faces of the men you have fought flash behind your eyes. The man you killed, his final surprised gasp. You see him in your dreams. You are bound to him, a ghost that walks beside you. You also form bonds with the men around you, the other survivors. You share stories, not of your lost lives, but of your shared present. You talk of fighting styles, of the quirks of different arenas, of the weight of a particular helmet. You gamble with the small coins you earn. You share the wine sent by an admirer. These men are your brothers in this gilded cage. You will mourn them when they fall, and they will mourn you. This is the central paradox of your existence. You are simultaneously a hero and a slave, a spectacle and a prisoner. You are worshipped for the very thing that is destroying you. The adulation of the crowd is a drug, a potent sound that makes you feel like a god for a few fleeting moments on the sand, but the withdrawal is a return to the cold reality of your cell. The fear is a constant companion, a cold knot in your stomach that never truly dissolves. It sharpens your senses in the arena, but it gnaws at you in the quiet of the night. Every day you survive is a victory, but it is a victory that only buys you a ticket to the next battle. You are living on borrowed time, each sunrise a gift, each sunset a potential farewell, and the lanista watches, his investment growing with every victory, waiting for the day he will cash it in, one way or another. It doesn't happen in a single glorious fight. It is a slow, brutal accumulation of victories, a bloody ledger written in the sand one life at a time. The men you face are bigger, faster, more experienced. Each fight is a razor's edge, a dance where a single misstep means a final, gurgling breath, but you do not misstep. The training, the fear, the ghosts of the fallen, they have honed you into something more than just a fighter. You have become an artist of violence, a master of your craft. You anticipate your opponent's move before he even thinks it. You see the fight not as a series of strikes, but as a flowing narrative, and you know how to write its ending. One day, after a particularly grueling match against a celebrated champion from another school, you are the last one standing. The roar of the crowd is different this time. It is not just approval, it is awe. The lanista meets you at the gate, and for the first time, you see something that almost resembles a smile on his face. You have become his primus palis, his first sword. The title changes everything, and nothing at all. You are moved to a private cell, a small stone room that feels like a palace compared to the communal barracks. The food is the best the ludus has to offer. Roasted meat, bread not made of barley, wine that doesn't taste like vinegar. Women are brought to you, their fascination with your celebrity a heady, intoxicating thing. The coins you are awarded for your victories pile up, a small fortune you have no freedom to spend. You are given a new set of armor, masterfully crafted, embossed with symbols of your victories. It is heavier, more ornate, a testament to your status. To the outside world, you are a living legend, a son of Mars. Your name is the one that sells out the games. You are the crown jewel of your lanista's collection, but this crown is forged of the heaviest lead. With the title of primus palis comes a crushing weight. You are no longer just fighting for your life. You are defending a throne. Every new opponent who steps onto the sand is not just a combatant, he is a contender, hungry to make his name by ending yours. The pressure is immense, a constant grinding force. Before, you were one of many. Now, you are the one. All eyes are on you. The expectations of the crowd, the bets of the gamblers, the pride of your lanista, they all rest on your shoulders. The fear you once felt, that sharp, primal terror, has changed. It has become a colder, more calculated anxiety, the fear of failure. The fear of losing the one thing you have earned in this world, your reputation as a survivor. Your relationship with the other gladiators shifts. The easy camaraderie of the barracks is gone. You are an object of envy and ambition. The novices look at you with worshipful eyes, but the veterans, your former peers, look at you with a new calculation. They are your friends, your brothers in the cage. But they also know that a victory over you would grant them instant fame and fortune. There is a new distance, a respectful but cautious space between you and them. You train alone more often, or with the lanista himself, who now personally oversees the sharpening of his most valuable weapon. You have climbed to the peak of this bloody mountain, only to find yourself utterly alone. The loneliness of the champion is a quiet poison, seeping into the rare moments of peace. The glory is a fire that consumes you. You are given more frequent, more dangerous matchups. You fight not just men, but beasts. You participate in elaborate, staged historical battles, the star of a bloody theatrical production. The lanista pushes you, wringing every drop of spectacle and profit from your fame. He has invested a fortune in you, and he intends to see it returned 100-fold. Your life is a relentless cycle of performance and recovery. You win, you heal, you win again. But with each victory, the odds shorten. The pool of challengers gets smaller and more dangerous. You are at the top, but the top is a precarious, lonely place. You have become the ultimate gladiator, the pinnacle of the craft. And you know that from the pinnacle, there is only one direction to go. The glory of the Primus Palace is a story told to the crowd. The truth is a story your body tells itself every single morning. You wake before the horn, not from discipline, but from pain. It is your most loyal companion. A dull, grinding ache in the shoulder that was dislocated years ago and never set quite right. A sharp, piercing fire in the knee that took the blunt edge of a mace. You rise from your cot not like a champion, but like an old man, each movement a careful negotiation with a body that has become a map of your battles. The cool morning air raises the ghosts of old wounds, a constellation of raised, pale tissue that crisscrosses your torso, your arms, your legs. You are a walking testament to the price of survival. Each scar has a name, a face, a sound. This jagged line across your ribs, a wild spear thrust from a German captive in your 5th fight. It burns when the air is damp. This puckered circle on your thigh, a trident's prong that found its mark, a gift from a grim-faced retiarius who nearly dragged you into his net and his grave. You remember the sound it made, a sickening puncture. This network of fine silvery lines on your forearms, the 1,000 tiny cuts from parrying blades, a history of defense written in flesh. You are a living ledger, and every entry was paid for in blood and agony. Your hands, once tools for farming or craft, are now permanently shaped by the sword's hilt. The knuckles are swollen, the fingers stiff. They do not feel like your own anymore. They belong to the arena. The damage is not only on the surface, it goes deeper into the architecture of your being. Your hearing in your left ear is a constant low ring, a permanent echo of a helmet-rattling blow from a warhammer. Your lungs, after years of breathing the dust of the arena and the stale air of the ludus, often feel tight. A shallow fire that makes deep breaths a luxury. You have learned to fight with these limitations, to compensate for a blind spot, to shift your weight away from a weakened joint. Your own body has become an opponent you must outwit every day, long before you face the man trying to kill you. The healers patch you up, the masseurs soothe the muscles, but they cannot mend the deep, structural ruin. They are merely plastering over the cracks in a foundation that is slowly, inevitably, crumbling. But the most profound scars are the ones no one can see. They are etched onto your mind. You have seen too much death. You have stood over men as the life leaves their eyes, their last breath a small, surprised cloud in the air. You have shared a meal with a man one day and killed him, or watched him be killed the next. These ghosts do not scream. They are a silent, watchful crowd that follows you everywhere. They are there in the quiet of your cell, in the reflection on a polished shield. You have learned to build walls against them, to numb the part of you that feels. Compassion is a weakness the arena cannot afford. Empathy is a fatal flaw. You have had to kill that part of yourself to keep your body alive. This is the cruelest paradox. To survive the endless violence, you must become as hard and unfeeling as the stone walls of the amphitheater. You are a masterpiece of destruction, both dealt and received. The crowd sees the champion, the god of the arena. Your lanista sees his greatest asset, a source of immense wealth and pride. But when you are alone, tracing the raised line of a scar on your own skin, you feel the truth. With every victory that built your legend, a piece of your body was chipped away. With every cheer that glorified your name, a piece of your soul was ground into dust. You are building a monument of fame for others, and the quarry for its stone is your own body, your own spirit. You are the living embodiment of the gladiator's trade, a magnificent creation destined for ruin. Time in the ludus warps. The seasons blur into a ceaseless cycle of training, fighting, and healing. The faces of the novices change, a fresh supply of the desperate and the condemned, replacing those who fell. You have outlasted them all. You have outlasted champions, beasts, and the brutal arithmetic of the arena that says no man can survive forever. You have become a fixture, a monument of scarred flesh and iron will. But you feel the end approaching. It is in the way your body takes longer to recover, the way the old wounds ache with a deeper chill. It is in the eyes of the new challengers, younger, stronger, faster men who see you not as a legend, but as the final obstacle to their own glory. The odds, which you have defied for so long, are beginning to assert their terrible gravity. You see the first path to the end every time you step on the sand. It is the most common path, the one walked by nearly every man who enters this life. It is the path of the grave. It could be a simple mistake, a foot that slips in a patch of blood-soaked sand, a shield held a fraction too low. It could be a moment of distraction, a flicker of movement in the crowd. Or it could simply be a better opponent, a man on his day, whose hunger for life surpasses your own. The end, when it comes, will likely be swift and unsentimental, a sharp, blinding pain. The roar of the crowd turning into a distant, buzzing wave. The taste of your own blood, hot and metallic. The feeling of the sun on your face for the last time as you collapse into the warm embrace of the sand that has been both your stage and your witness. Your body, an instrument of such value, becomes refused to be dragged away by slaves. Your story ends, a brief, violent chapter in the endless history of the games. This is the fate you have stared down 100 times. You know its face intimately. But there is another path, a whisper, a legend, a near impossibility that every gladiator holds in a secret corner of his heart. The rudis, the wooden sword, a symbol of release, granted by the will of the crowd and the grace of the editor of the games, often the emperor himself. It is the ultimate prize, more valuable than any purse of gold, more meaningful than any woman's admiration. It is the reward for a lifetime of impossible survival, for giving the people a spectacle so profound that they choose to give you back your life. You have seen it happen, perhaps once or twice in all your years. A veteran, battered and bleeding, but victorious one last time, stands before the crowd. And the roar is different. It is a roar of acclamation, of respect, of a collective demand. Thumbs turn up not for death, but for freedom. The wooden sword is presented, and the gladiator, the slave, the condemned man, walks out of the arena and does not return. Imagine that moment. The gate grinds open, not to reveal an opponent, but the road leading away from this place. You walk through it, the rudis held in your hand. The sounds of the arena fade behind you for the last time. The air outside the walls smells different, clean and free of blood and fear. What would you do? The man you were before this life is a faint ghost, a story you can barely remember. Your name, your family, your home, they are gone, erased by time and the trauma of the forge. Your body is a wreck, fit for little else but fighting. Your mind is conditioned for violence and survival. What does a man built for the arena do with a life of peace? Can the wolf ever truly learn to live among the sheep? The freedom you have dreamed of for so long is a terrifying, unknown country. So you stand at the threshold of your next fight, the weight of these two fates pressing down on you. You do not know which it will be. Will this be the day a younger, hungrier lion finally pulls you down? Will the sand drink your blood? And your story end here? A final, bloody spectacle for the mob? Or will this be the day you defy the odds one last time? The day the crowd, sated by your years of sacrifice, grants you the one thing you thought you had lost forever? The gate begins to open. The roar of the beast with 50,000 heads washes over you. You grip the hilt of your sword, your knuckles white. the grave, or the wooden sword. The final judgment is at hand. The terror of the Squid Game did not begin with the first gunshot on a remote, sunless island. For its 456 participants, it was merely a formal declaration of a war they were already fighting and losing every single day. Before they were players, they were prisoners. They were trapped not by steel bars or armed guards, but by an architecture of desperation so perfect, so complete, that a blood-soaked arena could be presented as an escape. To understand the game, one must first diagnose the sickness of the world that created it, a world that had already stripped them of their futures, long before they put on their green tracksuits. The primary pathogen of this world is debt. It is not merely a number on a statement. It is a creeping infection that corrodes a person's soul. We see this pathology in its most advanced stage in Seong Gi-hoon. His life is a frantic, undignified scramble, dictated not by his own will, but by the crushing weight of his obligations. Every choice is a calculation of loss. He steals from his aging mother, not out of malice, but because the debt has rewired his morality. He bets on horses, not for the thrill, but as a desperate prayer for a miracle cure. The system has pushed him into a corner where the only logic left is the logic of the long shot, the impossible win. His debt is an invisible shackle, making him a slave to loan sharks who represent the system's most brutal, unregulated face. This isn't just a financial crisis, it's an existential one. The world has made his life so worthless that signing away his own organs in a contract feels like a reasonable transaction. He is already selling himself piece by piece. But this prison is not reserved for the visibly broken. Its most insidious trick is its ability to ensnare even those who play by the rules. Cho Sang-woo, the pride of his neighborhood, the graduate of a top university, is the system's most damning indictment. He is the living embodiment of the capitalist promise: work hard, be smart, and you will succeed. Yet his polished exterior is a fragile veneer, cracking to reveal a chasm of debt and fraud far deeper than Gi-hoon's. Sang-woo's fall is, in many ways, more terrifying. It proves that the game of modern life is rigged not just against the unfortunate, but against its own supposed winners. He followed the prescribed path to success, only to find it led to a dead end of financial ruin and profound shame. His desperation is silent, hidden behind a suit and a confident smile, but it is just as potent. He represents the system's corrupted promise, a warning that no amount of personal merit can save you, when the entire structure is designed to create more losers than winners. And then there are those who were never even given a chance to play the conventional game. For individuals like Kang Se-byuk and Abdul Ali, the prison isn't invisible at all. It is a harsh daily reality of exploitation and marginalization. Se-byuk, a North Korean defector, exists in the shadows of society, a ghost trying to buy a future for a family the world would rather forget. Ali, a migrant worker, is subject to the cruel whims of an employer who withholds his wages, knowing that Ali has no power, no voice, and no recourse. They are seen not as people, but as disposable labor, human resources to be used and discarded. Their stories expose the system's foundational lie, the pretense of fairness. They are living proof that for many, the social contract was never offered in the first place. Their lives are a constant, grinding struggle against a world that has already deemed them unworthy. These were not 456 random individuals. They were case studies, each one a specimen of systemic failure, cultivated in the petri dish of a society that equates net worth with self-worth. Their humanity had been mortgaged, their hope foreclosed upon. They were trapped in a slow, grinding version of the Squid Game, where the penalty for failure was not a quick bullet, but a drawn-out social death. The outside world had already turned their lives into a commodity with dwindling value. The diagnosis was complete. The patients were identified, their condition terminal. All that was needed now was for the system to offer its brutal, transactional cure. How does a system built on suffering convince its victims to volunteer for more? It doesn't offer them hope. It offers them a transaction. The recruitment into the Squid Game is not a moment of random opportunity. It is a calculated, predatory process, as precise and methodical as a surgeon isolating a tumor. The man in the sharp suit, waiting on the subway platform, is not a savior. He is an agent of the system, a diagnostician sent to measure the exact depth of a person's desperation and confirm that they are ready for extraction. The game he offers, Dokji, is not a game at all. It is a diagnostic test, a final, brutal interview for a position no sane person would ever want. The transaction begins with a simple, almost insulting proposition: a chance to win a small amount of money by playing a children's game. For a man like Gi-hun, already drowning, even this tiny sum feels like a lifeline. But the real test isn't about winning money. It's about a willingness to accept pain. When Gi-hun loses, the recruiter doesn't ask for money back. He demands a slap. This is the core of the recruitment process. The system isn't measuring financial need. That's already a given. It is measuring a person's breaking point, their capacity to trade physical dignity for cash. Each slap is a microtransaction, a small piece of self-respect sold for the fleeting possibility of a reward. The recruiter watches with a chilling, clinical detachment, observing not just the physical reaction, but the psychological one. He is looking for the moment when the sting of the slap becomes less painful than the sting of poverty. This process is a masterclass in predatory economics. It targets the most vulnerable with an offer that is, by any rational measure, absurd. But rationality is a luxury the desperate cannot afford. The recruiter's offer is designed to bypass logic and appeal directly to the primal, panicked part of the brain that sees only immediate need. The business card he offers is not an invitation, it is a lure. It represents a tantalizingly simple solution to an impossibly complex problem. It whispers that there is a way out of the invisible prison, a shortcut through the slow, grinding failure of the outside world. The phone number on that card is a hotline to oblivion, disguised as a path to salvation. The system has identified its subject, broken down their defenses, and now presents itself as the only viable alternative. The genius of this recruitment is its veneer of choice. The recruiter never forces anyone. He simply presents the terms. "You can pay me with your body," he suggests, framing the degradation as a fair exchange. This is the language of exploitation, the same logic that underpins sweatshops and predatory loans. It reframes suffering as a form of currency. By the time Gi-hun is on his knees, his face red and swollen, the test is complete. He has proven that his desperation is deep enough, that his self-worth has been eroded to the point where he will accept physical punishment in exchange for a meager financial gain. He has demonstrated his suitability for a game where the stakes are infinitely higher, but the underlying principle is exactly the same. Your body is just another asset to be wagered. The phone call Gi-hun finally makes is not a decision made in a moment of clarity. It is the final, twitching reflex of a man who has been systematically dissected and found wanting by the world he lives in. He is not choosing to enter the game. He is surrendering to the only entity that has offered him a clear, albeit terrifying, value proposition. The system has diagnosed the disease of his despair and has now prescribed the only treatment it knows. And so the recruitment concludes not with a promise of a better life, but with the quiet, chilling click of a phone call connecting a broken man to a broken system. The diagnosis was confirmed. The treatment was about to begin. The first game, red light, green light, is a baptism by fire. It is a brutal, shocking calibration of the new reality. The cheerful, childlike instructions juxtaposed with the cold, mechanical execution of the losers is a lesson in cognitive dissonance. It strips away any lingering illusions that this is just a game. But the system's most sophisticated act of cruelty is not the massacre itself. It is what comes next, the illusion of choice. After witnessing hundreds of people being systematically eliminated, the survivors are presented with Clause 3 of their contract. If a majority of players agree to terminate the game will be terminated. It is a moment of breathtaking cynicism, a parody of democratic freedom offered in the heart of a totalitarian nightmare. This vote is not an act of mercy. It is a calculated psychological experiment designed to prove the system's central, most damning thesis: that the world outside the arena is a prison more terrifying than the one within. The debate that erupts among the players is a microcosm of society's flawed political discourse. There are pleas for morality, appeals to our common humanity, but these are drowned out by the grim pragmatism of those who have already done the math. They understand that returning to their old lives means returning to the slow, agonizing decay of debt, shame, and powerlessness. One player screams that it's worse out there than it is in here. In the game, at least the rules, however brutal, are clear. At least there is a chance, however slim, of winning. The final vote, 101 to 100 in favor of leaving, is a statistical anomaly that reveals a profound truth. Even after witnessing a slaughter, almost half the players would rather stay. But the system allows the majority to rule. The players are released, unceremoniously dumped back into the cold, indifferent world they sought to escape. This is the system's masterstroke. It isn't just letting them go, it is forcing them to confront the very despair that drove them to the game in the first place. For Gi-hun, freedom means returning to his mother's hospital bed and the crushing reality of her medical bills. For Sang-woo, it's facing the authorities and the life-shattering consequences of his fraud. For Se-byok, it is the hollow echo of her failed promises to her family. This freedom is an education in hopelessness. The outside world does not greet them with relief, but with the same predatory loan sharks, the same dismissive police officers, the same dead-end existence. The system has engineered a perfect control group. It has shown them the alternative to the game, and the alternative is a slow, certain death of the spirit. The return to the game is, therefore, not a surprise. It is an inevitability. One by one, they call the number again. This time, it is not a call made in a moment of panicked weakness. It is a conscious, rational decision, born from the sober recognition that the hell they know is preferable to the hell they left behind. Their return is the ultimate validation of the game's philosophy. It proves that the choice to participate was never really a choice at all. It was a forced move in a rigged system. The illusion of freedom was merely a tool to strip them of their final defense, the belief that there was a better world to fight for. Now, they know there isn't. When they step back into the vans, they are no longer just desperate individuals. They are willing participants, fully indoctrinated into the logic of the arena. They have seen the alternative, and they have rejected it. The doors of the van slide shut, sealing them in a world of brutal clarity. They have made their choice, and in doing so, have accepted that the only way out of their prison is through the graves of others. The experiment was a success. The lesson was learned. Upon their return, the players are not the same. The brief, bitter taste of the outside world has purged them of any romantic notions of escape. They are now committed, hardened. But the system requires more than just commitment. It requires the total disintegration of their social fabric. The next phase of their conditioning is to teach them that the most dangerous enemy in the arena is not the faceless guards in pink, but the person sleeping in the bunk next to them. This lesson is delivered through an act of calculated malicious neglect. It is called a special game, but its true name is deregulation. The catalyst is simple: a meager meal. The guards intentionally provide insufficient food, a classic tactic to sow discord and create a flashpoint of conflict. Deoksu, a gangster who understands the language of violence better than anyone, exploits this manufactured scarcity immediately. He cuts the line, takes more than his share, and murders another player who dares to challenge him. The players watch, frozen, waiting for the system to intervene. They wait for the pink guards to enforce the rules, to punish the transgressor, to restore order. But nothing happens. The monitors that broadcast the prize money simply light up, adding another 100 million won to the pot. The message is as clear as it is chilling. The rules against killing other players have been suspended. This is not a failure of the system. It is a feature. By refusing to police player-on-player violence, the organizers perform a moral deregulation. They are signaling that the social contract, the implicit agreement not to harm one another for the greater good, is now null and void. The game is no longer just about surviving the challenges set by the organizers. It's about surviving the basest instincts of everyone else. The arena floor is transformed from a structured playing field into a state of nature, where life is, as the philosopher Hobbes warned, nasty, brutish, and short. The system has officially sanctioned chaos, knowing that fear is the most effective tool for atomizing a group. That night, the lights go out. What follows is not a game with rules, but a primal, bloody purge. In the darkness, the carefully constructed hierarchies of the outside world dissolve, replaced by the simple, brutal logic of predator and prey. Alliances become a desperate necessity, but trust is an unaffordable luxury. Gi-hun's small group, which includes the elderly Oh Il-nam and the disgraced Sang-woo, huddles together not out of friendship, but out of a shared, terrified understanding that isolation means death. The night riot is a furnace that burns away any remaining embers of collective solidarity. It teaches the players that empathy is a liability and that compassion is a weakness to be exploited. When the lights finally come back on, the floor is littered with bodies. The survivors are not just physically exhausted, they are spiritually broken. They have looked into the abyss of human nature and seen it staring back from the faces of their fellow debtors. They have learned the system's most crucial lesson: you cannot trust anyone. The organizers have successfully outsourced the culling process to the players themselves, turning them into both victims and perpetrators. They are no longer just competitors, they are threats to one another. The psychological damage is immense and irreversible. The community of the desperate has been deliberately fractured into an assembly of paranoid individuals. The morning light reveals a grim new order. The players are now building barricades, sharpening makeshift weapons, and eyeing each other with a suspicion that will never again fade. The system has successfully turned them inward, against themselves. The true enemy is no longer an abstract economic force, but the breathing, terrified person just a few feet away. The moral deregulation was complete. Now, the system could introduce games specifically designed to exploit this newly forged mistrust. The groundwork for betrayal had been laid. Having successfully deregulated morality, the system now moves to its most insidious phase, the targeted demolition of human connection. The night riot taught the players to fear the stranger. The next games will teach them to destroy the friend. This is a process of engineered atomization, a clinical dissection of trust, empathy, and loyalty. The system understands that the final barrier to total dehumanization is the bond between two people. And so, it creates scenarios with the specific, surgical purpose of forcing one person to extinguish the other. This is not about survival of the fittest. It is about the mandated murder of companionship. The game of marbles is the masterpiece of this psychological warfare. The players are told to form pairs, and in a moment of naive relief, they gravitate towards those they trust the most. Husbands find wives, friends find friends. Gi-hun chooses the frail Oh Il-nam, not as a strategic partner, but as an act of protective pity. Sang-woo pairs with Ali, the trusting man he has already begun to manipulate. Se-byok, ever the loner, finds a tentative ally in another young woman. For a brief moment, the arena is filled with the semblance of camaraderie. This, of course, is the trap. The announcement that they will be competing against their chosen partner is one of the most psychologically devastating twists in the entire game. The system has weaponized their own affection against them. What follows is a slow, agonizing vivisection of the human soul. The game is no longer against an impersonal clock or a giant doll. It is against the person whose story you know, whose life you value. We see this pathology manifest in different, equally tragic ways. The husband and wife scream at each other, their love curdling into bitter resentment as they face mutual annihilation. But the most chilling case study is Sang Woo. Faced with losing to the pure-hearted Ali, he does not rely on skill or luck. He relies on deceit. He engineers a cruel, elaborate lie, exploiting Ali's unwavering trust to steal his marbles and send him to his death. This is not a moment of spontaneous evil. It is the logical endpoint of the system's training. Sang Woo is simply applying the ruthless, individualistic logic that the game, and the capitalist world that spawned it, rewards above all else. He has learned the lesson perfectly. Sentiment is a fatal flaw. The aftermath of the marble game leaves the survivors hollowed out. They did not just win. They became agents of their friends' destruction. They carry the weight of that choice, a poison that seeps into their every interaction. This engineered trauma is essential for the next stage, the glass bridge. Here, the atomization is made physical. The players stand alone, single file, on a path to either salvation or a violent end. The game is a brutal metaphor for a rigged corporate or social ladder. Those at the front are sacrificial pawns, forced to clear the path for those behind them. Their lives are expended for the progress of others. The game explicitly punishes pioneers and rewards those who wait for others to fail. Here, the last vestiges of cooperation are extinguished by pure, rational self-interest. When one player refuses to move, the pressure from behind builds until another player, driven by the ticking clock, shoves him to his death. It is a stark, ugly moment that demonstrates how the system's pressure can override any sense of shared fate. Sang Woo, now fully committed to his role as the ultimate pragmatist, does the same, pushing the glassmaker to his doom to reveal the final safe panel. He is no longer even conflicted. He is merely executing the winning strategy. He has become a perfect product of the system, efficient, ruthless, and entirely alone. The players who cross the bridge are not a team of survivors. They are a collection of isolated, traumatized individuals who have been forced to internalize the system's most brutal ethos. Your survival is predicated on another's demise. The bonds of trust, friendship, and even basic human decency have been systematically sought out and destroyed. They are now perfectly primed for the final bloody confrontation. The atomization was not a byproduct of the games, it was the entire point. The system needed to prove that when stripped of everything, a human being is nothing more than a desperate animal, willing to climb over any number of bodies to reach the prize. The proof was now complete. Just as the number of players has been whittled down to its grim finale, the game's true audience is revealed. The arrival of the VIPs signals a crucial shift in perspective. Until now, the horror has been viewed from the ground, through the eyes of the contestants. Now we are invited to see it from the top, through the gilded masks of the ownership class. These men, lounging on plush sofas and sipping expensive liquor, are not just spectators. They are the market. They are the silent, invisible hand that gives the entire blood-soaked enterprise its purpose. Their presence transforms the arena from a desperate struggle for survival into a product, a bespoke entertainment package for the terminally bored. The VIPs are the ultimate embodiment of late-stage capitalism's greatest sickness, a profound and soul-crushing nihilism born from absolute material saturation. They are men who have everything and therefore feel nothing. The world of normal human experience, with its struggles, its triumphs, its simple pleasures, has become an abstraction to them. They have consumed every luxury, indulged every whim, and are now left with a void that can only be filled by the most extreme and transgressive stimuli. Their commentary on the game is chillingly detached, reducing the life and death struggles below to the level of a horse race. They bet on human beings as if they were livestock. their casual remarks revealing a complete disconnect from the reality of the suffering they are watching. This is the economic engine of the game. It is not about giving the poor a chance. It is about providing the rich with a spectacle. The suffering of the 456 contestants is the raw material, processed and packaged into a luxury good. The immense prize money is not a prize. It is a production cost, a necessary incentive to ensure the quality of the product. The VIPs represent a class of people so far removed from the consequences of the system that they can only experience life as voyeurs. They are the endpoint of a world that has commodified everything, a world where even human despair can be bought and sold on a private market. Their boredom is the deadliest force in this universe, for it is a boredom that demands a constant supply of fresh tragedy to feel alive. But the final, most terrifying layer of this perverse structure is revealed only at the very end. The architect of this entire nightmare is not some shadowy, monstrous figure. It is player 001, O Il Nam, the frail old man who seemed to be the game's most vulnerable victim. His deathbed confession to Gi-hun is the philosophical key that unlocks the entire system. He did not create the game for money. He was already obscenely wealthy. He created it, and ultimately participated in it, to combat the same existential ennui that afflicts the VIPs. When you have too much money, he explains, no matter what you eat or drink, it all gets boring. His motive was a desperate search for feeling, for a nostalgia for the simple, brutal joys of childhood games, a desire to feel anything at all. Oh, Il Nam's confession is the ultimate indictment. He is the system made flesh. He is the benevolent-seeming grandfather who is, in fact, the architect of a slaughterhouse. His philosophy reveals the horrifying truth. The game is not a flaw in the system, but its purest expression. It is the logical conclusion of a world where capital has become so concentrated that the owners of that capital see the rest of humanity not as fellow beings, but as playthings. He justifies his creation with a cynical belief in the inherent darkness of humanity, a belief he worked tirelessly to prove by creating the perfect conditions for it to flourish. He didn't just watch the decay, he engineered it. The curtain is pulled back to reveal not a monster, but a bored old man. And in that reveal lies the ultimate horror. The system that crushes millions is not driven by some grand, evil ideology. It is driven by the trivial, nihilistic boredom of a handful of men who have lost their own humanity and now seek to purchase fragments of it by watching others lose theirs. The final game ends not with a bang, but with a whimper of broken humanity. Gi-hun stands victorious over the body of his childhood friend, the prize money secured. By the brutal logic of the system, he is the ultimate winner. He has outlasted, outplayed, and outlived 455 other people. He has won an astronomical sum of money, enough to erase his debts, care for his mother, and build a new life for his daughter. He has achieved the capitalist dream in its most distilled and violent form. And yet, when he returns to the world, he is not a victor. He is a ghost. His victory is the system's final, most profound cruelty. The prize money, the supposed goal of this entire ordeal, becomes a source of torment. It is a poisoned chalice. When he tries to access it, the automated voice on the phone cheerfully informs him of his massive balance, but the numbers are meaningless. He cannot touch the money because it is not just currency. It is a monument to his trauma. Every single one is stained with the memory of a life extinguished. The trust of Ali, the desperation of Sebyok, the final pathetic plea of Sang-woo. The money is a physical manifestation of his moral compromises, a tangible record of the price of his survival. To spend it would be to accept that the price was worth it. And so, he leaves it untouched, a dragon guarding a cursed treasure he cannot use. His life after the game is a flat line. He reverts to a state of existence even more broken than before. His hair grows long, his face is unshaven, and his eyes are vacant. The man who was once driven by a desperate, frantic energy is now paralyzed by an all-consuming apathy. He has won the rat race, only to discover that the prize is a deeper, more profound emptiness. This is the survivor's curse. The system did not just take the lives of the losers, it took the soul of the winner. It has proven that even if you succeed within its brutal framework, you are irrevocably broken by the process. The game is designed so that there are, in fact, no true winners. There are only the dead and the damned. The final confrontation with Oil-Nam is not just a plot twist. It is Gi-hun's final, agonizing lesson. The architect of his suffering reveals that the entire spectacle was born from the nihilistic whims of the ultra-rich. This knowledge does not bring closure. It brings a horrifying clarity. It confirms that the deaths of his friends, his own trauma, his mother's lonely demise, all of it was meaningless, a form of high-stakes theater for an audience of one. This realization is the final nail in the coffin of his old self. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as intended, serving the powerful at the expense of the powerless. In the final scene, Gi-hun stands at the precipice of a new life. His hair is cut, he is wearing a new suit, and he is on his way to see his daughter. For a moment, it seems he might escape, that he might find a way to live with the ghosts. But then he sees the same recruiter, playing the same game with another desperate soul. And in that moment, he understands. The game is not over. It is a self-perpetuating cycle, a machine that will continue to find new fuel for its fire. His decision to turn back from the jet bridge, to call the number and declare his intention to fight back, is not a triumphant hero's moment. It is the tragic act of a man who can no longer exist outside the logic of the arena. He cannot rejoin the world because he now sees the game everywhere. He is a product of the system, and his final act is not to escape it, but to re-engage with it on its own terms. He has won the battle, but the war for his soul was lost long ago. The survivor is now a permanent contestant, forever trapped by the memory and the reality of the game that made him.